Wednesday, July 8th. It's getting very sunny here in Southern California. Today we're going to walk across the yard, past some of our construction mess, and look at the side yard where we have quite a few things growing. Our house addition is essentially done. We're working through some of the administrative tasks needed to have a inspector come out and inspect it and formalize the addition. We have some tomatoes that are being covered, and in case you're curious about that, it's because I noticed some cream color on some of the fruit, and that is usually a sign of sun scald. When the sun hits it, and especially when the sun is very intense, it will cook it and burn it. So we have this cloth here to cover it. During the day it gets covered. In the evening we remove it so that the plant can breathe easily or just be more relaxed, I guess. And I noticed that the angle of the sun is going to be a factor. So if it hits it from the top, it's not too bad, but if it hits the tomato from the side, then it will burn the fruit. So we have to be very mindful if it's exposed, and by exposed I mean if it's not covered under the leaves, we need to cover it, especially here in California where the sun is very intense. This is our bog. If you caught our carnivorous plant unboxing, this is how our bog is doing. And our kids has been really enjoying this, and they especially like moving these plastic frogs around. And what's nice about that is I would come back and find the frogs moved, and it makes it seem like they're alive. The pictures are there's some. It looks like I was hoping to show you some bugs in there, but it looks like that's what it looks like when it's been digested. They catch quite a few bugs. That's the original picture in it, and they've since grown many more pictures, and the amount of pictures that they've grown is quite impressive. Here we have a citrus tree, and I like grafting different varieties of citrus onto one tree. So here is a Dancy mandarin, and I'm hoping to be able to get a King Tanger mandarin on that tree. In this area we have a ginger plant, and this is a plant that is growing in this pot and has been growing for the last few years now, and it grows back in the late spring. What I would do at the end of the season is harvest away the ginger that I would use and leave a piece in there and just let it grow through winter, and it'll come out when it needs to come out. We have some spinach, and I'm hoping that the ginger will fill in and provide some shade, and hopefully we can harvest some spinach in the summer. During the early parts of the pandemic shutdown, we rushed and grew a bunch of spinach plants in pots, and it was very nice that we can come out and harvest our spinach rather than to wait in line at the supermarket to pick them up. So that was really good for our mental health and saved us a lot of frustration and preserved our energy to grow more plants. But those spinach have since bolted, and we're saving its seed. We're now relying on plants like kale for our greens. This is the dwarf blue curled kale, and I'm very surprised by it in regards to the taste category because the stems look very fibrous, the leaves look mature and bitter, but it's actually the opposite. The stems are tender and the leaves are sweet. So it produces a good amount of leaves for us to eat. And then next to it we have some Roma tomatoes. It's being planted where there's shade. Over there it's sunny. We're now in the thick of summer, or not quite there, but we're planting in this area. Hopefully the shade will allow us to get 2 harvests of Roma tomatoes out of the year, and that's a goal that I've been working on, or that's a goal that I've wanted to see if we can achieve, and hopefully it will be one that we can get to this year. Here we have Barbados Cherry, and we'll look at it in a second. First I want to show you the red Malaysian guava, and if you're familiar with my plant preferences, I like to grow plants that have dark foliage or flowers or fruit, and this is one that is growing for the second year and it's producing some buds, so hopefully we'll have fruit to test. I hope it tastes good. And then this is a Barbados cherry. It's also known as a acerola cherry. This is the second year in the ground for us, and it's now producing quite a few for us. Last year we got one, and then so far we've gotten 1 and 2, and I thought it was just going to produce that many, and it's very nice to find that we have quite a few now. They taste like star fruit, and unlike star fruit, they grow well here in our subtropical climate in California. It gets about 4 hours of shade here, of sunlight here, but ideally the more sunlight you can give it, the more fruit it will produce. But our better spots have been reserved for plants that need a lot of sun, so this is a good compromise in this area. Another plant that likes a lot of sun is this panache fig, and when we planted it, it was a smaller, shorter plant, and we were hoping, or we were anticipating that it will grow past the shade area and into the sunlight, and it has, and now it's a big full plant with a lot of figs. This is a variety that needs a lot of heat to ripen, so we have a lot of fruit and they're just waiting for the heat to ripen them. There is one that is starting to show signs of ripening, but it's not going to yet because we're not that warm. It produces a lot of these cool variegated figs, and it's one of the more popular figs because of that, and we get a lot of views from our prior fig videos, and it's one that a lot of people are very happy to see, so I'm very happy to share this every time with you. This one is showing signs of being ripe. You can see the belly button is opening up, but doing a squeeze test, it's not fully soft yet, and it's not drooping, so when it's fully ripe, it'll also droop. Here's one where you can see the belly button is fully closed. So I'm guessing in the next day or two, because we're getting weather in the high 80s, we'll find some ripe figs. In the meantime, we'll just continue to mire them because they're just pretty to look at. We're gonna walk over here and look at this container that contains carrots. These are Kuroda carrots. They make these really nice, sweet, crunchy carrots. And we'll see if we can find a good one for you. This one is hour shaped. And let's find one that's more indicative of what they can look like or should look like. And that's what they look like right now. We're gonna harvest some as baby carrots for dinner. And then this area, we have the bok choy that we've been talking about in the previous updates. And our plant seems to be slowing down a little bit. I don't know if it's a combination of its maturity or the warmth, but we still have some leaves that we can harvest. And this area, in the wintertime, the sweet potatoes die back and the soil is bare, so we can plant things on top like the bok choy. And then we planted some, here's the sweet potato foliage, it's growing in now. And we planted some collard greens. This is the Georgia Southern collard greens, and it's gotten tall and out of the sweet potatoes way now. What's nice about this is it's mostly a perennial here in Southern California. It's a good disaster preparedness plant. We can harvest it during a disaster, and that's something I've talked about sparingly on this channel, and I was able to talk about that during a podcast on a fellow gardener's podcast. So this plant is really cool to have, and it's also good to have in a pinch. I tried to grow some wing bean next to it, and it didn't quite work out because I had hoped that the wing bean will grow on top before the collard greens shaded it out. So maybe next year it will do that. This is our kaffir lime, this is yuzu tree, and it's being planted into the ground now. And then next is our strawberry guava. This produces some smaller sized guava that have a red color to it. It probably gets its name from the size and color, but not the taste. It doesn't really taste like strawberry guava. And when it comes to guava, I like them firm. This is one of the few varieties that are good when they're soft. And I do want to note that they're not technically guava, even though they're called strawberry guava. They're two different types of plants. So, but they have very similar tastes, and it's probably why they're called guava. This tree, once the top is done fruiting and we harvest the fruits, I'm going to chop down the top third because I want to manage how much fruit we can get out of this, and also allow the plants in the back to get some of the sun light that they need as well. Here we have the ahi amarillo. This is growing from our grow light setup. And then we have some bush beans over here. This is the Kale haricot vert. Haricot vert is French for filet beans, and this is one variety that produces when it's warm. So it's now producing quite a bit for us. So we're gonna harvest this away and cook them tonight with the baby carrots. The other thing that we have growing in here is this vanilla blood orange. Even though it's sometimes called the blood orange or considered with the blood orange, it's not technically a blood orange because the pigmentation it gets is from beta carotene. Blood oranges get their pigmentation from anthocyanins, and I'm trying to graft a blood orange onto this tree, and we have a cleft graft that's here. But speaking of beta carotene in fruit, this pink lemonade lemon tree is a variegated tree with variegated foliage and variegated fruit, and the inside is pinkish, and that's due to beta carotenes. We have a fruit here that's ripened, and when they ripen they lose that stripe and the variegated skin, and as they mature they start to lose that. So here's one that's maturing and is losing the variegated skin. And then with the rest of the front yard, hopefully we'll be able to come back and show you how it's growing. The front yard permaculture tour video is one that's very popular, and this space has changed a lot since that. So maybe we'll come back one day and look at that. But in the meantime, we're going to end our video here. Thanks always for visiting, and we will see you in the next video.